All right, welcome back everybody. And just continuing on discussion and debate around item number 11, which is the annual budget 2026-27. And we're going to look at, and it's slightly different to your papers, but we'll look at capital. We've got extra motions, recommendations on the table. And we're going to go to capital renewals first. And I'll go to Councillor Naylor, and what we'll do, people, is if there are any questions, we'll get relevant officers up. Then if there's none of that, it will then be 3 for, 3 against, and then we vote on it. There'll be some groupings, but we'll make that very clear before we do it. So the first one here is around if we can get that up first. This is around a reduced program 2495. This is the council chambers refresh from 313,000 to 0 in the 26-27 budget, and refer the program to the 27-37 LTP. Councillor Naylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a briefly to introduce all of these recommendations, and I think they were circulated to you all at about 2:15 yesterday, just in time for the deadline. So you should have those in advance. There have been a few changes just because we've had some responses to questions, so there have been deletion of a few. So just firstly to really thank the officers, and the work that has already been done is really helpful. The renewals, in my view, I'm fairly comfortable with. This is just one program that stood out as perhaps I don't necessarily have a strong belief that we need to spend 313,000 to refresh the council chambers in the next year. I'd be personally happy to defer that for consideration as part of the long-term plan. So I'm just leaving it really brief.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any questions? Just put your hand up if there is any questions. Okay, there is. Councillor Zabellin.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I did have clarification, because when I was looking into the program profiles that we were given for the last LTP, I understood that this budget was for replacement of technology once the warranty period or the support period for the current technology had run out. So I wanted to check that with staff.
I'll just get the CE to speak to it.
Through the chair, I'm just having a look around. My understanding that it actually is for the replacement of the carpet and the furniture in here, not the technology.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Barrett.
Will it do anything to address the safety concerns around people wobbling up and down the stairs that, yeah, especially the aged ones?
Yes, I'm looking at the person behind you. That's right.
So it would be.
You do understand accessibility and things like that. I understood was that if we're doing things like replacing carpet and furniture, you'd be having a look at accessibility and things like that as well.
Great, thanks.
Okay, so we'll go to speaking to the actual item itself. So, Councillor Johnson.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I was still in the queue for a question.
Oh, okay, question.
So, if this is referred to the long-term plan, and there are quite a few things that are proposed to be referred to the long-term plan, can we have an officer sort of view on whether we're going to be kind of like front-loading the long-term plan by deferring things this year and putting them into their first year of the long-term plan? I guess it refers not only to this one, but a number of the others as well.
Yeah, obviously, I'll ask the CE to answer that one.
Yeah, through the chair, just kind of state the obvious, yes, you would be, but then when you get to the long-term plan, you then make more decisions about at what phase of the long-term plan you might decide to do it. Obviously, we do try, particularly with some of the renewals and things like, the carpet and furniture in this place, that eventually it will expire, and for some of the reasons that perhaps Councillor Barrett's explained or suggested around accessibility and safety and those sorts of things in here. You don't want to be, as the phrase goes, kicking the can too far down the road.
Okay, so can one of the officers just remind us what the predicted rates increase is for what would be the first year of the new long-term plan at the moment? Or in other words, year 4 of the current long-term plan?
They're just doing some checking, but we look like we've got an answer coming. One moment, caller.
Through Mr. Chair, it is work that the team are trying to do at the moment, is to have a gauge as to what effectively year 4 and 5 would look like based on decisions today. The challenge we have at the moment, of course, though, is the complexity of taking the water activity out. So at the moment we're not in the position to give you what that figure would be, because we're still working through the implications of taking water out. That's quite a complex.
Is there a range or something you could give us, or are we pressing you too much?
I think that would be a challenge. I mean, if I think of what the long-term plan year 4 did have in it, it was, I think it was around the 9-10% mark, but circumstances probably have changed in the last couple of years, and it wouldn't ordinarily be that high. But can't give you an answer around what the change would be. You would have some sort of decrease to the council rates and a new bill for water, but what the combination of that looks like, can't tell you right at the moment.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody want to speak in favour? Councillor Fitzgerald.
Probably fitting I say something, seeing as I'm seconding the motion. Obviously to speak to pretty much all of them at one go to save jumping up and down is pretty much around the proposed annual budget is showing an increase in borrowings of about 12% throughout the year, and a rates increase of around 5%, which is a bit high for me to pallet. So basically we're just looking for some low-hanging fruit where possible to try and bring these numbers back a little bit to make them more manageable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, look, I'll speak. I'm just going to have a philosophical approach to this, because I appreciate that this is the time to do it, but there hasn't been an opportunity for partners to enter into any of these conversations, and a lot of them do have partners with them. But this is one, and I'm going to pick them off one by one, but philosophically, I'm not going to support stuff that's chopping where we've got a partner program or we've got another entity involved, because they literally haven't had a chance to respond. But this is about us in this chamber, so I will support it. Look, the HQ part of the building has not been changed in 12 years. It's still, the quality of the carpet is still good. The chairs are still good. There's probably some other stuff that's hanging on by threads and may need some work in the next 24 months. But I think we can probably sweat the asset another year. So I'm prepared to support this, be one of the few that I probably will support. But I philosophically, I think we can look to get another year out of the chairs that you're all sitting on in the background there, and the carpet that we're on top of at the moment, because it is good quality, and I don't think we need to replace any of these chairs. So I'm quite happy to say yes to this reduction and push it to the LTP, but with a view it probably will need to be done then. Are you speaking to that, councillor? Or no? Okay. Please, if you want to speak, get into the queue. The Deputy Mayor.
Kia ora, Your Worship. I support you. There's only one thing that I think would need urgent attention, and that is to make it more accessible for people who are disabled. I've been here and witnessed many people struggle going up those stairs, and I don't think in 2025 that that's appropriate, that we should make that safe for everyone who comes in here. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I broke my own rule there. So if you're going to speak for, we just have 3 for, 3 against. So we've had 3 for. Is there anybody against that wants to speak? Okay, we're going to put this one to the vote, please. And that has passed 14 votes for and 2 against. All right, we now move to the capital new and, sorry. Oh, okay, sorry, we've got some additional ones. If I could get those up, please. Okay, so A2, that the budget for program 213, the cultural facilities renewals, remains as proposed in the LTP. That's 522,000, and that's from Councillor Zabellin, seconded by Councillor Johnson. My apologies. Councillor Zabellin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and we did just pop these ones in just before the break, so I apologise for the short notice. Just in response to the answers to questions we had, I do have concerns about cutting this budget back so significantly over the 3-year period as proposed, because there are a number of buildings that fall within this budget, which is for cultural facilities, and that's quite a significant number of buildings that this budget has to keep in good condition, and many of those facilities have really high public visitation, and therefore they have a high wear and tear rate. So to go from 522,000 down to 222,000 for a sustained period, I don't think is wise. I do remember a situation a couple of years back where the hot water urn packed it in at Hancock House. Some of you might remember. There was no budget for replacing that. And the tenants in that facility waited for months and months for budget to become available and then to make it to the top of that priority list. When we put that situation into public-facing facilities, which get run down faster, that to me isn't looking after what we've got. Some of our cultural facilities as well are venues for hire, and that's how they generate non-rates revenue. And we set targets for them to achieve. We need them to attract commercial hires to offset the community rates that they charge. So we need them to be a good value proposition for hirers. And we heard that this budget is always fully allocated, so I don't see how reducing it is going to help us keep those buildings in ship-shape condition to be a good hire proposition for the community. So I hope you can support keeping this as we proposed it in the LTP. Thanks.
Councillor, can I get you to speak to A3 as well, which is very similar, the budget program 17559. We'll take the vote separately, but I just want to move through things. Recreational buildings, sports pavilions, changing rooms remain as the LTP. 209,000, again seconded by Councillor Johnson.
Yes, happy to speak to that one as well. I had put this program up in the LTP in response to some submissions that we received, which noted that the changing rooms were in poor condition in our parks, and the impact of that meant that with growing sports codes, young people playing sports had nowhere to change, and that specifically discouraged girls from participating in the sports. They had 2 asks for us. One was to refresh the changing rooms to be fit for purpose, and one was to do the lights. The lights were a big ask, but we expedited the changing rooms program to complete 2 a year instead of 1, and to complete that program in 3 years instead of 6. Followed by 3 years of zero budget in the middle period of that LTP in order to to avoid front-loading the next bit. So if we keep this in, this completes that job, it addresses the issues that were raised in the submissions, and it gives us 3 years of no spend on this budget line ahead. So I'd ask you to keep that budget line in, and we'll just get that job done and completed. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I'll speak to them both at the same time because I think the principles apply to them both, really. I just don't support us cutting back so significantly on renewals. I heard what the Chief Executive had to say about reducing the total of the capital programme, and whilst I understand that was necessary, I would much rather see us cut back on capital new than capital renewals. And so in terms of renewal of cultural facilities and the buildings, the changing rooms and so on, Those are projects that are part of our BAU, they're business as usual. And I think we've always agreed that one of our philosophies is to look after what we've got before looking to, spend money on new stuff. So Councillor Bunn's correct, the changing rooms was as a result of submissions that were received during the long-term plan. The cultural facilities renewals, I think it'd be very short-sighted to cut those back. We do need that money. They are highly used buildings and they're front-facing. I was prepared to support the council chamber refresh being put off, but I do think that these other two are a much higher priority. So I would ask for your support on these two. They're important renewals of community facilities that are well used.
Councillor Wood.
Can I just ask a question, Mr Mayor?
Yes.
So just get an understanding from officers, given this is something that they put forward themselves in relation to cultural facilities renewals, I just want to understand from an officer perspective what the difference in level of service looks like between the two options, either what you've proposed or whether we reinstated it back to where it was. In practical terms, what does it mean?
I'll just get either infrastructure or property to answer that.
Through you, Mr Chair. The reduction in budget would in essence mean that we do far less than what the original budget amount was. I don't have at my fingertips at the moment what was planned for the next year, sorry. So to talk specifically about what wouldn't have been done, I can't give that full answer today. But the general answer is we do less with a lower budget, obviously.
Can you give us any idea? I mean, 222,000 remaining seems a still relatively generous budget, but I want to understand, are we meaning that we're not going to be able to replace the hot water if that fails, or what does it mean?
We all,
scale?
Yeah, through Mr Chair, we have the way we use these budgets, we have a list of actions that are prioritised across the portfolio, the buildings included. Then on any given year with the amount we have, we do what we can within that budget envelope. We always try and hold some money back for the unforeseen circumstances of emergency works, etc. What this would mean if the budget was reduced to what was proposed was that we do less things in that year than was originally planned because of the lower money. I mean, it's okay, as simple as that. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll just speak briefly on this then. I do think there is a distinction between A2 and A3. So A3 is for a one-off finalising an upgrade to a changing room. And I agree with Councillor Bell, and I think we should do that and put it to bed and get it done. I don't think we should go, well, we've done 5 out of the 6, we'll just leave the 6th one and we'll do it down the track. So I will support A3. A2 I'm less supportive of, given it is more of a rolling maintenance budget in terms of our facilities that the officers themselves have proposed as being a manageable area in which we can cut back on our capital program. So I appreciate it's difficult without having the actual practical example on the ground. It sounds like officers are saying they'll still keep money for emergency situations. They'll just be able to do less of the big headline renewals. I'm relatively comfortable with that for this year. So I won't support A2, but I will support A3.
Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Speaking in support of both of those budgets, I think A3 is a no-brainer. A2 might be a little bit more challenging for people to get their heads around, and I do recognise that the officers put that up as potential. But noting in the comments to that report, the rationale for it actually said in order to reduce overall rates requirement, and the CE followed up with that and said that wasn't actually the rationale. The rationale was about reducing the capital programme. But this programme is always oversubscribed. That's what we've heard. This isn't a capital renewal programme where there is things not happening and scope to reduce that. This is a programme that needs to go ahead, and it's the very definition of kicking the can down the road. If the programme is always oversubscribed every year and we put that back, what does that do to future years? We're storing up problems for ourselves into the beginning of the LTP. It's a saving, but I think it's a saving that will come at a considerable cost in the next couple of years in very well used facilities that have a lot of footfall that need that maintenance to be kept up to date. So I would ask you to please keep that programme at the current LTP level.
Okay, is there anybody else who wants to speak against? Councillor Naylor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't think these recommendations have been circulated, so I haven't had a chance to have a good look at it, but I do refer to the papers in 4.3 where the officers have said that the capital expenditure has been reviewed and updated to reflect latest circumstances and the likelihood of being able to deliver, and certainly the Chief Executive did confirm that was the rationale for it. Over the recent years, in terms of the overall renewal budgets, we've stepped up significantly. I think I remember not so long ago our renewal budgets were 25 or 26 million. Now we're looking at 23 million for the coming year. And I do think that does reflect the fact that we are looking after our assets. Renewals, though, do have a direct significant impact on the rates increase for next year. And whilst it's lower than our LTP figure, it's still higher than what I'm comfortable with. So I won't be supporting these two recommendations.
Okay, what I'm going to suggest is, because there is some were saying support one and the other, we'll just vote on them separately, if that's okay. So we're going to vote on A2 first, which is around Program 213, the cultural facilities renewals. And I will ask you to vote on that one first, please. And that is passed, 11 votes for and 5 against. All right, we'll come now to A3, and this is around the program 1786, around recreational buildings, sports pavilions and changing rooms maintenance, and I'll ask you to vote, please. And that has passed, 14 votes for and 2 against. Okay, we're going to move to A4 and A5. I'm going to take these both together, and these are around footpath maintenance. A4 is around council increasing the footpath maintenance budget by 200k for the 26-27 annual budget, moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by myself. And A5 is linked that the consultation document include options to increase footpath renewals by 1.47 million to align with depreciation costs. Also 1,500,000 and the rating impact of these particular options. Okay, Councillor Wood.
Mr Mayor, not to be a side of efficiency, but I think A4 is actually an operating budget, not a renewal budget, so I wonder if it needs to be discussed as part of that. I'm still happy to do them both now if you'd like to. It's just they are two slightly different things. Do them both?
Yes, we'll do them both now, but we will separate them into their categories, yeah.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, thank you for your support on this. I apologise I didn't get this to you earlier, councillors. This was a result of the questions that you heard me teasing out with the officers earlier this afternoon. There's 3 figures you need to be aware of here, councillors. The first one is that currently we are spending $1.2 million on footpath renewal. Currently, we are budgeting depreciation in that space of $2.67 million, and that means that we have a gap of $1.47 million between what we know to be true in terms of our depreciation of our footpaths and what we're actually renewing. And I think we all see that and feel that in the community. We saw in our resident survey just last week that satisfaction with our footpaths and maintenance of those is 36%. That is 11% below the sector average of 47%. So this isn't one of those areas that we're just on par with the sector. We are considerably below what the local government sector average is. At 36%, we're down 16% in terms of satisfaction from 2020, where we were sitting at 50%. So in terms of the renewal budget, I think, aside from Councillor Fitzgerald and Councillor Kuru, we all remember that unfortunate day in the chamber where we came in here, we'd asked our officers what would it cost to step up our footpath and roading maintenance, and they gave it to us at the start of the long-term plan, and then we made a mistake. We didn't count our debt repayment as part of our overall calculations, and we all sat here going, we need to find, I think it was something to the tune of $400, $500 or $600 million. And that led to Councillor Barrett quite rightly putting the recommendation that we can't step up our renewal maintenance as much as we would have liked to because of that financial situation. I seek today to take the first step to fixing that problem. What I'm suggesting very clearly, or to be clear with this wording, so I appreciate it's a little bit unusual, is that the full gap is 1.47 million. Give that to communities an option of consultation. Would you like us to put that back in, or put that in, and that'll have a rate impact of X%, might be 0.6. Or we could do 1 million rather than 1.47, that would have a rate impact of X%. Or we could do 500,000, and that would have an impact of X%. Or, obviously, by nature of it being consultation, we can keep the status quo, which is the $1.2 million that's currently there. So this gives the community clear oversight of what the deficit is and then what it would cost to fix that deficit. The other part to this is the footpath maintenance budgets, and both of them align, although they do slightly different things, and I would hope the councillors might have some questions for our officers as to what the impacts of this would be after I finish speaking. But my understanding is that we are currently, you can see it on page 214, spending $289,000 full stop on footpath maintenance. That is our operational maintenance programs. That's not renewing full footpath, that's the you call them spot fixes, whatever you'd like to call it there, your lichen spraying, all of that. $289,000 in a city of 90,000 people does not seem like an adequate amount, and that is one of the areas we get the most complaints from dissatisfaction in our community. I said to the Mayor when I put this forward, don't have a heart attack, I'm wanting to spend some money, your eyes don't deceive you. You will have felt over the last 3 years, councillors, that I've been very negative on spending, and I absolutely am when we're starting at 13, 14% figures. When we're starting at 5%, I have a lot more appetite for talking to the community and having a conversation with them about areas that we could do better and giving them that option. It's not to say when post-consultation I won't have plenty of views on where other areas we might be able to find savings, but I think these two recommendations are a good way of starting that conversation. The community, if they want better footpaths, give them the choice to make that and give us that feedback, and then we can make that call when it comes to post-consultation decision making. So I hope you can support this as a sensible way of stepping up our footpath maintenance and hopefully working towards hitting that sector average at the very least.
Councillor Johnson.
I've got a question for the mover and a question for officers. So the question for the mover is, how did you determine that the budget in A4 would be 200,000?
It's a nominal figure. It could be 100,000, it could be 500,000. I thought 200 seemed like an acceptable increase, but I'm certainly happy for amendments to change that if people wanted to do more or less, but there's not a science to it. It's 289 currently, so that is a 70% increase on the current budget in the papers.
A 70% increase? Okay, I'll factor that in for future resolutions. And my question for officers is, I do recall maybe 2 or 3 years ago that we wanted to increase the budget for footpath renewals, and that we asked to do that, and we were told that there wasn't the capacity. Yeah, other people are nodding, so it's not just a dream I had, that we didn't have capacity, that even if we put more budget in, there wouldn't be the capacity to do those renewals. So I just want to ask, in the light of A5, whether officers' opinion has changed.
I'll get a response from infrastructure.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Glenn O'Connor, Acting Infrastructure GM. Certainly in the last 2 or 3 years, the capacity in the transport and the roading industry or construction industry more broadly has increased, especially since NZTA 12 months ago cut back their funding substantially. So I am confident now that we will have capacity to lead in with the increased work should that come to fruition.
And would we be expecting an NZTA subsidy on this or not?
During the current year that we're in, so NZTA's funding round is the same as our funding round, so we're about to enter the 3rd year of the Regional Land Transport Plan. It is unlikely that we get an increased subsidy from NZTA in that 3rd year. However, for the new Regional Land Transport Plan, which again mirrors our long-term plan, if Council had in mind to set that budget, that's what we'd seek co-funding from NZTA for.
Thank you. Thanks.
Councillor Spellin.
Thank you. I'm really happy to support both of these. recommendations. I've been following our KPIs and performance for footpath for quite a few years, and we have a requirement that 93% of the network is rated average or higher, and we have seen that plummet in the past 3 years, and we know that the majority of the network is actually rated average, not good, not excellent. And we do also know that without investing the money that's required, much of that will fall into the poor category before long. So it's really important that we stay on top of that and just stop that slide. I also think consultation with options is a good idea. And I did note in this proposal that the Bunnythorpe footpath renewals budget is proposed to be reduced. And if that could be included in that consultation, I think that just makes sense. But this is core business. We can't let it fail. Thanks.
Councillor Naylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whilst I do have some sympathy for this suggestion, I don't think this is the right time to make a change of this level. I'd be more open to it if I could see where we could offset this by other reductions, but at this point I don't see many reductions being proposed from any of you, really. So on that basis, and the fact that, I mean, even 5% is higher than I believe is a reasonable, or what our community, many in our community have indicated to us, is that that's too high for their liking, as well as the fact that we're looking at a year where we're wanting to implement the third stage of moving to capital value. So there will be an inconsistent way that the increases are applied across ratepayers. Some will be hit heavy, and I'm really mindful of that. It's not just a 5% blanket or wherever we land. So I'm a little bit uncomfortable with these additional things coming at this point. You know, following consultation, if there's a significant amount of feedback on this issue, and if we can offset that with other reductions, I might be open to it, but not at this point.
Councillor Finlay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I definitely would support both of these. It doesn't only affect one group of the community, it affects everybody. Mothers with prams, kids with roller skates, people with disabilities, older people who get caught and trip over cracks and lifted footpaths in the city is terrible. If you see some of the older people who have fallen over on our footpaths and the damage it's done, we are responsible for it. Our footpaths have deteriorated over the last 10 years because we keep taking the budget away. Now, I'm all for putting this money back into it. If we can save one older person breaking a bone or cracking their jaw, it's worth it. For one mother's pram not to get jammed, or for a kid on roller skates not to be flying along and breaking a leg, it's worth every cent. So I'm all for putting back in the money for this footpath.
Okay, well, that's 3, 4. Do you want to write a reply? You sure? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say very briefly, I can appreciate Councillor Naylor's concern in A4, but I don't understand her concern in A5. This is literally saying, let's consult the community on options with how much it would cost. So there is no negative benefit, no negative to doing that, nor is there no cost to doing that today. So I'd encourage the council to vote for A5. And secondly, to say I do support substitutions, and I can assure the council I'll be working closely with her as it comes to approving the annual budget post-consultation, but not everybody can be substituted one-to-one. You've put forward a swathe of operation reductions, some of which I will also support, which go partway to a substitution. But I think this is a core service of council. This is getting back to basics, Councillor Fitzgerald, so I hope we can support it.
Okay, you've spoken, councillor. Okay, yep. Okay, we weren't going to, so we can separate the two. So we'll separate and we'll do A4 first, please. And that is around increasing the footpath maintenance budget by 200,000 for the draft 26-27 budget. So we'll just vote on A4, please. That has passed 14 votes for and 1 against. She's not in the room. Okay. We've got Councillor Bowen is absent. So we're on to A5, and this is around the consultation document looking at increasing options around footpath renewals of 1.4 million, 1,500,000, and the rating impact of those options. So we'll vote on A5, please. And that has passed 15 votes for and none against. Thank you. Okay, we now go to, I think it's A6, and this is program 2361, the CET Arena replacement roof, grandstand roof, to be moved forward into the draft 26-27 annual budget of 2.131. Councillor Dennison speaking to that, and Councillor Harper the seconding.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a follow through on my line of questioning with the officers earlier around when we did the tour, it was very clear that the CET Arena roof replacement is a need. It's breaching at many spots, and I think as far as stewardship of our assets, and I think of, you know, the risk of rusting steel and rotting timber in between all the unseen parts of the building. I think of health and safety with water and wire and all wiring for electrical being unknown, and then the public reputation. I think we had the sector leaders for logistics and distribution there with the Outer Ring Road consultation just the other day. We have out-of-town visitors there regularly, and I think it's actually an embarrassment. If it was to rain and us getting all the buckets out while we have an event like that, that's embarrassing, let alone being, I think, absolutely irresponsible without addressing it now, knowing how bad that is. So this just moves it forward a year, it gets it addressed. I think this is clearly one of those back to basics that I'd find it hard to believe anyone opposing. I'll leave it for the debate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, yeah, okay. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to speak in support of this. I will say this morning I was feeling a bit frustrated actually to realize that we were on the cusp of breaking our very excellent streak of building renewal investment year on year on year on year that was reported to us a mere few months ago. And to see that start to head in the wrong direction was very concerning to me. And I think I want to congratulate and thank Councillor Dennison for bringing us this opportunity to make sure we keep that track record strong, and a definite case where it was very obvious to see. So I encourage everyone to support this.
Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, sir. Look, I'll stand to support this. This is one of those council cans you've got to stop kicking down the road. Look, I've been lucky enough to attend quite a few sporting events at Arena since 2022. And honestly, I've had people coming up to me commenting on the state of the roof, and it's an absolute embarrassment. And, you know, we've got to do better with what we've got. One of the premium places in town, and it's looking like it is. So it's not good. I certainly, you know, would like to see that fixed. And, you know, we just recently had a council water meeting there. And, you know, even from a point of view from other councils, I think it's an embarrassment the way it is. So let's do better. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question of officers? What would be the rating impact if this was successful in the coming year?
I'll just look at the team over there to confirm my thinking here, but because this is a renewal, it's the 3-year average, so we're bringing it forward, so there would actually be a slight shortfall, which would mean there'd be a slight increase to debt, but it wouldn't do anything to the rates increase. It's all within the rounding at that point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. In terms of the 3-year average, I was thinking it would add about 0.5% onto rates, but I can be corrected on that. I'm really sympathetic to this, but once again, I think particularly with renewals, we're spending 33 million. We need to look at offsetting this with something that's perhaps further down the priority list. So whilst I'm sympathetic, when there's no substitution or replacement or corresponding savings in another area, I simply just can't support adding more and more things on before we've gone through the consultation with our community. As I said before, the officers have put what they believe is realistic to deliver. So I'm not comfortable to just simply add on without taking other things off that workload.
Anybody else speaking against? Councillor Fitzgerald.
I too am quite sympathetic to this, and I might be happy to reconsider looking at it once we find some corresponding spending reductions to offset it, but at this point I cannot support it.
Okay, anybody else against? Okay, what we'll do is we will now, you don't want to write a reply? No, we will vote please on A6 please, around the CET arena replacement, maintenance of the roof. And that is passed 12 votes for and 3 against. And we've got the substantive now. And this is 1B, that Council instruct the Chief Executive to prepare a draft of the consultation document and supporting information for the annual budget 26-27 for consideration by Council at its meeting on the 11th of February 26, and it contains the renewal capital programs as outlined in attachment 5 and as amended above. So I'm happy to move that, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. I'm not going to speak any further to it because we've gone through things to date. We will vote, please. And that is passed 12 votes for and 2 against. All right, we move through now to the Capital New and Growth, and we have under Arts and Heritage, and I'll get that up on the screen in a moment. And this is around reducing program 902, the seismic strengthening, from 2,089,000 to zero in the 26-27 budget, to provide additional time for consideration of new legislative framework and how this applies to the portfolio, and referring the program to the 27-37 LTP. And I'll invite Councillor Fitzgerald to speak to that, please.
Yep, it's pretty, in the interest of time, it's pretty self-explanatory there that obviously the rules around this stuff have changed a lot, and so we just need a bit of time, I think, to revisit some of that before we go and drop $2 million on something. Oh yeah, I think we were looking at though, we did alter it to potentially $1 million, because 2 million is an awful lot, because in the document it was all, there was no actual groundbreaking stuff there, or building work, it was all investigations. And 2 million is an awful lot of money to be spending on something without any tangible return. Yeah.
So are we changing that from 2 to 1 million?
To 1 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're reducing the program 902 seismic strengthening from 2 million to 1 million, is that right? Okay. From 2 million to 1 million. Okay. So from, 2,089,000 to 1 million in the 26-27 budget. Okay. All right, open it up. Councillor Wood.
If I could ask a question, Mr Mayor, of our team. I'm not quite sure who it's to, perhaps to our property manager. I made a similar argument earlier this year that we needed to wait on this program to see what the legislative framework was. At the moment, it does feel a little bit like we're throwing $2 million in a hole to do something. So could we get some more information on what exactly this will give us? Does it need to be done before the long-term plan, or could it be delayed to that? Can we do it with 1 million?
We'll wait for Glenn to make the well-beaten path to the table.
Through you, Mr Chair. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. I might have to give a fairly full answer, if I may, to give context to this. So the 2 million 2.02 $189K was deferred from this year into next year. So there's not a makeup or a scope necessarily of that amount. The framework has changed, so, and I apologise if people are familiar with the changes, but so that everybody understands, the new framework promotes or proposes that the MBS scores be removed. So to date, we've been working under the new building standard framework where buildings are assessed and they come up with a percentage against what a new build score would be. And lots of our portfolio score quite lowly under that regime. The new framework asks for a more targeted set of activity where it's only actually the building failures themselves that are addressed, because the old framework had to go and do all these other accessibility works and address lots of other things. The result of the work, that, as we understand it at the moment, is we had 21 buildings that were in the portfolio under the MBS system. We've now got 7. Including this building, the Regent, Square Edge, Te Manawa, the library, Fitzherbert Park Grandstand are the main ones. So whilst the proposed legislation is only proposed at the moment and it comes in 27, staff would like to start doing the detailed investigative works with this budget, which is what the money for next year is intended for. Detailed design, come up with options for remediation for those assets, prioritising the Regent and the library in particular, come up with full scope. So basically complete all of the technical work pre-construction to put on the table with a recommendation and a report for you all to make a decision at that point. My nervousness, not many things keep me awake at night, but this portfolio situation does to an extent. So if it could be supported to have some funding in the program next year, we can start that work with earnest. There's the seismic work itself, but in particular the Regent and the library are complicated assets as live civic facilities in themselves. And if you take the Regent, for example, it's got bookings years out in advance, and we need to be able to work around those with what's going to be extremely disruptive work. It's going to be noisy, it's going to be dusty, and similarly with the library. And there are a set of other programs of work that need to be undertaken on those assets as well. So the Regent has floor replacement aspects, it's got some heritage aspects. We've fixed the weather tightness, we think, but there's repainting and replastering needed. The library has a full program of work that needs to be done, HVAC, weather tightness, fixing lifts that are out of life, etc. And we can't approach any of those pockets of work without doing the fundamental seismic structural work first. So if the recommendation is changed to $1 million, I think that would be sufficient to undertake all of that work, cover off all of those investigative pieces of work, and they're highly technical and detailed that need to be done to be able to prepare full costed cases to come back to the chamber to set about the actual physical work in the future.
So to be clear, you're comfortable with the recommendation that you'll be able to get the work done as it stands now on the screen?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Naylor.
Thank you to the officer. Yeah, I'm happy to make a comment. Thank you. And that's really helpful to clarify, because certainly when the answer came back to the question and it said that it was just for investigation and design, I did have some concern about spending $2 million on that, because as many of you are aware, sometimes we have spent money on designs that we've then had to write off because we haven't actually applied it to those things. There are some pretty big decisions to be made, not so much for the Regent, but particularly around the library. And I think those big decisions need to be made prior to the design work. And as we've heard, if the legislation doesn't even come in until 2027, as the report says on page 281, I think it is, that officers need to understand how this applies to our portfolio. And I think in terms of sensible use of money, it's better to take it slowly, understand that fully before making decisions and then doing the design. So I fully support this recommendation.
Councillor Johnson.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to be supporting this. I note that the original plan was for 6.7 million for this work in the long-term plan, and that officers proposed it be reduced to 2 million, just over 2 million, and that the justification was around the deferral for new legislation. I think that we need to be a lot more proactive in how we manage our key facilities like the library and the Regent. We all had a tour around the library at the start of this term, and it's frankly, condition is deteriorating year on year, and for one reason or another, the work on the library keeps getting deferred. First of all, there was the Library of the Future, which Councillor Dennis will remember. That was then canned. Then the library was put in with a civic and cultural master plan, which again has had its own delays and deferrals and seems unlikely to be achieved in the near future. And I'm really keen that we face up to the fact that the library needs urgent attention and remediation. The officer mentioned the lifts, the HVAC, the weather tightness. When it rains, the library leaks. Staff can't use the upper floor because it's not suitable. It's an earthquake risk. Whether the government has now decided that it's less urgent for us or less of a priority doesn't take away from the fact that I remember when the report came to council about what a risky building that would be in an earthquake. That hasn't changed. It hasn't changed at all. So I'm really reluctant to reduce this budget further. There was already a $4.7 million reduction proposed by officers, and I think there's no need to reduce it further. We need to be actually getting on with this work, facing up to the fact that the library is a much loved place, that we need to look after it, and we need to get on with this work, not keep deferring it and deferring it and deferring it. So I won't be supporting this one.
Councillor Wood.
Well, thank you, Mr Mayor, and I agree with Councillor Johnson, which is why I'm supporting this recommendation. Officers confirmed in answer to questions that this budget would be adequate to do the work that is needed to inform the long-term plan for the library. Councillor Johnson's conflating two things. So the $6.7 million was for when we needed to do the work for 21 buildings in the long-term plan. As was just confirmed by officer, we now need to do that work for a third of those buildings, 7. So, yes, absolutely. And officers believed we could do the work for the 21 with the almost 2.1 million. So now that we've significantly reduced the number of buildings that need that large level of work, I feel like with the confidence of officers saying that they believe they can do it, there's no good reason not to. We do need to get on with the work in the library, and this will enable us to do it. I would have opposed taking it to 0, because what I don't want to be in a situation of is where we don't have good information to inform our decision making at the long-term plan. So I appreciate the mover and seconder making this a more modest pullback, and I appreciate the officer's explanation that this will be able to be undertaken within that size budget. So I'm not understanding what the concern would be, and I would encourage councillors to support it.
The Deputy Mayor.
Kia ora, Your Worship, kia ora tātou. I'm of the same opinion of Councillor Johnson. Having been a school principal when my own schools, 2 of them, needed seismic strengthening, we actually did a deep dive into what were the risks associated should we not undertake those in a timely manner, and it was too hard to bear. And I'd say that the safety of our citizens is paramount, young and old. Also, it is a loved place. The library is a place, you can go there any time of the day and you can see people filling up those places. The fact that we can't even use the top floor is of concern, but it's like kicking a can down the road. So I think that we've got to be realistic about this and maintain or keep it as it should be, as it was, because otherwise we're just diminishing the opportunity, making it harder for ourselves. But most importantly, it's not safe, and it needs to be safe like yesterday. Thank you.
And online, Councillor Harpiter.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thanks very much. Councillor Johnson, I totally agree with you. We had a tour this year of the library, which was a really good tour, and I totally agree with what you're saying. I think if we can support the arena getting the roof coming forward, then we can support this. So I think that this is what we should be supporting, because I think the library needs, we've got to stop, as in the words of Councillor Dennison, stop kicking the can down the road and support this work for the library so that we can carry on getting the library work done, because this is the building that needs to be loved, and get the work done in the library instead of putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. We have to keep getting this work done. So I won't won't be supporting this recommendation. I'll be voting against it. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues. From 2,089,000 to 1 million in the 26-27 budget. If you could vote, please. It's still open, you can undo it. And it's passed, 9 votes for and 6 against. All right. We now have a substantive, do we? Okay. Okay, we're doing all the activities together. So, this is C1. Can I have a little bit, can I see C2? Is there a C2? Okay, there is. Okay, different mover. Okay, so we're in recreation and play. This is around reducing the following programs in the 26-27 budget and referring them to the 27-37 LTP. We'll start with C1, program 1194, CET Arena of 8,878,000, master plan redevelopment. Councillor Naylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly to explain my thinking on the proposals in front of us more generally around reducing our capital new. Now, as we can see from our papers, to include everything that's in there at the moment, we would need an additional 58.4 million debt, and 23 million of that capital new is in the strategic or optional section. This is one in there, and the thing that really prompted me, I know we've had some debates on this project before, the thing that really prompted me to consider putting it forward at this point was the Mayor's comment a couple of weeks back where he said we won't be doing anything new. And I think colleagues, looking at the money that we've had to just support in looking after the buildings that we already own, it's clear to me that owning buildings is an expensive business. Not only the capital to putting it up to get it built in the first place, but the ongoing maintenance and renewals. So this is a huge cost, I think 15 to 17 million, somewhere around there. The last update in our quarterly report last month said that it was behind schedule due to stakeholder engagement and procurement of consultants. So it certainly hasn't been started yet. And I think it's one that, in light of rates caps going forward and in light of the feedback from our community, I think we could definitely pause and consider whether that's something we fit in as a part of the long-term plan. But at this point, I don't think it would be wise to just simply push forward and proceed. It's 100% ratepayer funded, so there is no external funding in this, which for a project of that size is quite unusual. I couldn't find another project of that size anywhere in our budget or long-term plan that didn't have some level of external funding contributing to it. So it's a very expensive project, definitely in the optional or nice to have category in my view. The benefit of the arena that we have exists from the existing buildings. The needs assessment that was done indicated additional requirement for our region, but that we had adequate space for our city. So basically, we're asking our city to fund a building that the people outside of our city need, but we're asking our city to fund it. So from my perspective, when the people in our city are saying, my rates increases are too high, then I think this is the sort of project that we need to consider pausing and reconsidering the size of it, or when or whether we continue with it.
Before I go to the list, obviously as I'm chair of this group and just been misquoted, this isn't new, councillor. This is very much in train. I think we're into about our 6th PSG meeting. There's certainly a lot of work's been done in the background. It's been part of multiple LTPs. There's literally been hundreds of submissions on it. There's partners involved. There's a large community support. And there actually is external funding. It just hasn't, the applications just haven't come through. Admittedly, it's not huge, but we've got large trusts that are interested in this program. So, look, colleagues, there are some targets here, and unfortunately the arena and a few others are favourites in the scope of some of these cuts. So this is, as my start, I'm not going to support anything that's got partners in it. So if we chop this, we will go back to Basketball New Zealand, we will go back to Volleyball New Zealand, we'll go back to multiple users of the facility and say, we have to rescope how we're delivering some of these events for them. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I'm sure I've got some support. Councillor Johnson.
Just before I make a comment, can I just check either through you or through an officer that this is for the replacement for the Bell and Barber Halls? Arena 5, I think we're calling it.
Let's see how you respond.
Through the chair, I think previous conversations that have been had around this table is that Barber Hall will get to its use by date at some time in the future, but it's a long way off. So this is additional to what is already currently on site.
So is this for the new Arena 5, as we're calling it?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, okay. Is that not a replacement for the Bell and Barber Halls?
Potentially it is. Do you want to just checking my commentary.
My understanding, and probably might want to clear this, but my understanding eventually it is.
I just want to be short before I start speaking.
Yeah, can I get
just in case anyone questions my capacity again?
Can I get somebody to confirm or planning to confirm that eventually this is a replacement for it, or am I got that wrong?
Through Mr. Chair, I hope I'm correct in saying this. I think I'm at the consultation document. The master plan does refer to Arena 5 as a replacement for those facilities. But through this project and through the Stairco conversations in particular, and in this chamber, it's also been raised, do Bell, Barber and Watergrave have a future life, and officers are on standby to investigate that as well. But the core purpose and the genesis of Arena 5 was as a replacement facility, as I understand.
Back to you, Councillor.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm not going to support this proposal to zero it out or refer it to the long-term plan, zero for this year and then refer to the long-term plan. We had a huge consultation on the Bell and Barber Halls and how we should deal with replacing them. They are well past their use-by date. I have been to many events in them and they are old and falling apart and leaky. I don't quite understand why we would want to pause a project that has been ongoing for many years, that we're committed to making continual improvements to, and that is for public benefit, that will provide a facility that many people in our community will be able to use, not only for sport, which is important, but also for other events. So I'm not going to support this, and I think if we hear through consultation on the annual plan that somehow the community has changed its mind and doesn't want a new facility and is happy to make do with Bell and Barber for as long as they last, which won't be too much longer, then I'd be prepared to consider it after consultation. But I think at this point, this is something the whole arena master plan was consulted on through the long-term plan, was actually widely supported. And look, you know, I'm not a sports tragic by any means, but I do recognise that this is a popular facility that it's basically not a new facility either, it's a replacement facility, and I think we should continue to support it. So I won't be supporting C1. Thank you.
Councillor Barrett.
Thanks. And now I'm confused a bit about what building we're talking about. So is the 8.8 million to build a new building on the corner of Pascal and Cook? Okay. Sorry, Pascal and Cuba. Thank you for the geography lesson. Look, in my view, we've made one good decision around arena already, which was to prioritize the renewals, and I think we have an opportunity to make another good decision here, which is actually to let this wait a year. I think that we can allow that ourselves, and in the interim, if we need to patch a bit of the roof on another building to keep it there, that's fine, but I don't think there is actually a huge urgency for $8 million for a brand new building.
Councillor Dennison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support the recommendation. To not support this. Let's go. Don't mix my message. No, I don't want to take the money away. In fact, the designs and concept work has been on the steering group. We've had briefings as recent as just before the election, and getting to a point where we can go to a design and build. And so clearly understand the benefit of having the extra court spaces available for the region. There's teams that are registering for the competitions in volleyball, basketball, that are playing it so late at night because they just don't have the capacity, and still having teams that can't register and play on alternate. So purely for capacity, but it is a replacement. When we talked about the Gorge Road getting a toll, we said, no, this is a replacement road for the old Gorge Road. This is actually a replacement building prudently planned for in advance of the deterioration and final life of the Bell Hall and the Barber Hall. And so it's just a master plan redevelopment, and again, yeah, getting our line of sight on things take time, and to leave it to the last minute would just be imprudent in my mind. Thank you.
Is anybody else for this? Okay. Councillor Meehan.
No.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm...
Okay. All right. Anybody else for? Oh, okay. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Obviously, I'm for it with seconding the motion. I can appreciate I might be flogging a bit of a dead horse with this one, but the community have clearly told us that they want rates to be manageable, the increases in them. They don't want the council taking up massive amounts of new debt, and so I'm just trying to let them know there's a few of us here trying to uphold their wishes. I don't think this project's affordable at this point in time, especially with some of the spending add-ins coming in from other areas. We need to get things manageable, so I will be supporting this amendment.
Okay, right a reply, councillor.
Thank you. Just addressing a few things that have been raised. I don't know what the actual definition of partner is. I'm sure there are users, potential users of this facility, but when I'm talking about partners, I'm talking about actually people who might help fund it. And at the moment, that's falling 100% on our ratepayers. In terms of potential funders, I'm pleased to hear that, but our budgets don't reflect that at the moment. There's nothing in the revenue side of that. In terms of the definition of a new project, I think that is something that is yet to actually be built, and this is yet to be built. So I think that it's something that we can reasonably and fairly reconsider in the current environment. So I'd really urge you, it doesn't mean that it completely goes away. If we reconsider it, we can reconsider the scope. There are users of Bell and Barber Hall who have come to this table and expressed that they're quite happy with continuing to use that hall, and as the Chief Executive has pointed out, it's still got a few years in it. So if we can reconsider this as a part of the long-term plan, we may be able to consider, are there actually other partners who might help fund it, and or is there an adjusted scope that might be more appropriate for our community to afford or fund? So I'd urge you to pause on this now and for those reasons.
All right, we will vote, please, on program 1194 and reducing by 8.8 million the master plan to arena. Thank you. That has failed. 4 votes for and 12 against. No, I didn't. Your eyesight? Do you know what my glasses? I'm the one that's got the stuffed eye. Here you go. You might be able to see it with these. Your eyes are a bit younger than mine too. Anyway. Okay, we're moving on, councillors. C2, this is around, and we'll take these as a group. This is from Gerald, reducing the program 26-27 budget and referring them to the LTP 27-37. Program 1846, 192,000 City Reserves Walkway Extension. Program 1845, 102,000 to the Square to Marahine. And program 1851 of 235,000 around sports field improvements. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you. I've already hashed out most of the details around this. It's around trying to reduce rates impact and borrowing throughout the year on some projects that I don't deem critical. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question, please, of officers and the parks manager specifically? Can I get an understanding of all 3 programs, exactly what we are potentially removing to the LTP? Can you give us...
Kathy Todd, Manager Parks and Reserves, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to these programs. The walkway extensions to the existing networks is where we have the land, but the connections have not been made in the past. So in this example, it would be the Palmerston Hill to Moonshine Valley. We have the section in between that's come across from the developer. That walkway's been developed, but the 2 connections have not been developed. In terms of sports fields improvements, that's made up of 2 projects. One's gravel banding. Gravel banding enables us to improve the drainage on our existing fields and delay investment in new fields, and that is about 80,000 of it. And the balance was in the intention to start to develop some training lights. There is a big request out there in the community for more training fields, and so the intention was that council would install them. That is an increased level of service. Te Marahine, that is for filtration of the butterfly pond, for us to enable, rather than dumping water, which is a large volume of water we have to do frequently through the summer because the pond goes green, is to put in UV disinfection, sand filtration, so that we avoid dumping that water, which is a cost to the city at the moment.
Okay, just on the square one, so does it go through a filter? Is it what happens?
At the moment, there is no filtration on that pond. There is only the pond for the pumping of the water feature. Okay. And the intention would be with that money to put in a filtration system with pump.
Okay. All right, thank you. Councillor Zabellin.
My question's been answered, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. Just want to rise in support of this. It's clearly in the increased level of service part of the budget, capital new. Some of the description kind of sounds a little bit like it could be or potentially covered within renewal budgets. All of these areas do have renewal budgets as well. So we have the asset, we have the renewals, and then we have this is in the capital new or increased level of service part of that. So for that reason, I think if we're going to target, look at ways to minimise the level of debt that we're drawing down, for the sake of future rates increases in particular, I think we need to look at those that are increasing the level of service. So I do support these reductions.
Councillor Bowen.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and apologies for being in and out this afternoon. I don't support these reductions. I think even though they're three quite different propositions, they all serve the purpose of improving what we've already got. We've got stranded walkways that are not connected, that are in an area of high new development. We've got a pond in our most photographed part of the square that turns green most of the summer, and then we have to dump water out. And we have sports fields which desperately need improved drainage. And anybody who's got kids who play football knows that every time it rains on a Thursday or Friday, your heart sinks a little bit because you know in all likelihood that Saturday morning sport is going to be cancelled. So improving drainage and getting better lighting in there for safety and to extend the use of those assets is just smart use of our assets. So I won't support not doing that at this stage.
Councillor Wood.
I wasn't going to speak, but I thought that was an interesting phrase, Councillor Bowen, improving what we've got rather than just maintaining what we've got that we discussed earlier today. I was just going to ask if we could separate the last one, 1851, out in the voting. I'll support the top two and I won't support the third one.
Okay. We're going to separate, we're going to do program 1846 around the City Reserves Walkway and 1845 around the Square to Marahine. Separate those out. We will vote on those top two first. And that is passed, 9 votes for and 7 against. You're very welcome to use them. Okay, and then we come back to C2 program 1851 around the sports field improvement. And that has failed, 3 votes for and 13 against. I got that one completely wrong. Right, we now go to the substantive. I've got one more, okay. Yeah, I do. I got confused in that vote. Okay, we're just getting something copied over. Okay, Councillor Barrett, this is your... They're just going to get it. That the Chief Executive develop a program to address the accessibility needs in the Chamber for consideration of the 26-27 budget. Yourself and the Deputy Mayor.
Thanks. Could I ask the Chief Executive for a comment?
Through Mr Mayor, just sort of having a chat with officers while we knew that this one was coming up. Look, we think that we could, just having a look at some hand railings and things around accessibility in the current, in here currently, we could probably come up with a plan in this current financial year just to address some of those accessibility issues if council is of mind to that.
Great, thanks. Happy to withdraw.
Okay, thank you. Done. Okay. So we're going to do the substantive now. Oh, Councillor Johnson?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, just a quick question. Has D been withdrawn, the car park one?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so now we go to the substantive, which is 1C, that council instruct the CE to prepare a draft of the consultation document and supporting information for the annual budget 26-27 for consideration by council at its meeting on the 11th of February 26, and that it contains C, capital new and growth programs outlined in attachment 6, which includes program 1681 Kiki Whenua Transport highlighted in clause 9.2 as amended. I'm happy to move that. Second by the Deputy Mayor. And as we've done quite a lot of discussion so far, we'll just vote, please. And that is passed 14 votes for and 2 against. Okay, 1G, this is around council instructing the chief executive to prepare a draft of the consultation document and supporting information for the annual budget 26-27 for consideration at our council meeting on the 11th of February 2026, and that it contain G, bringing forward program 2366, the hydro slides from the 2029 30 year to 2026-27, and updating the associated budgets as identified in attachment 7. Now I'm happy to move that, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Colleagues, this was in our papers. You'll see the corresponding information that has actually had, although it's coming forward, actually has a positive effect in terms of income in that 4-hour rating, and it's really just moving forward what we were always going to do in 2029, and that's because our partners, the other owners of the hydro slides, are wishing to get out of the business, so because of their age and health. So for those that have been around a bit around the table, it was a very positive public-private partnership, and it's an asset which sits with us, and it's only good that we're a partner in it, we should be taking it over. So I'm happy to support that. Okay, being no other discussion, we'll vote. It's passed 16 votes for and none against. Thank you. All right, we'll move through to operating programs now. So if I can just see that, please. Okay, so this is around operating programs. First of all, around recreation and play. We'll do that one first. 1F, that. Okay, all right, we can do them all together then. So recreation and play and economic development, and I'll read them out first for people on 1F, that program 2559 to provide civic support for Massey's Botanical Gardens, Te Waimana o Turatia. Project of 50,000 is not included in the draft 26-27 budget and is made explicit in the consultation document. Economic development, that the following new programs are not included in the draft 26-27 budget and made explicit in the consultation material. Program 2568 to provide support for Manawatu Rugby and community rugby around the Cyclones and Turbos of 25,000, and program 2563 to provide civic support for the Palmerston North Boys High Hockey Turf project of 33,500. And then biodiversity and Manawatu River, that program 2561 to fund the Te Turanga Gateway Car Park at 20,000 is not included in the draft 26-27 budget, and it is made explicit in the consultation material. Councillor Naylor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Colleagues, I'd like to refer you to page 171 of our agenda. These 4 items all fall under the bullet points of council referrals that council has referred these matters for consideration during the annual budget. Some of you well know one of my little bugbears where things have been referred to the annual budget process, but just actually get put in there, whether that counts as consideration or not in your view, I don't know, but I do think they should be considered for discussion. So I've proposed to take them out as a way of considering them. I don't think any of them are essential. It's us giving money away to other organisations. Some of our ratepayers have indicated they can't afford to give away money right now. So I seek your support to pull these out. Anything that is successful, my suggestion is that it should be made clear in our consultation document what things we've considered and not included. And that would be my preferable way forward, to say we've considered these things but not included them. If there was an overwhelming feedback from the community that they wanted us to fund these, then we can make that decision at the end of the process. But from my perspective, I think this should be our starting point, not to include these. The first 3 are giving money away. The 4th one, the Gateway Car Park, it's really, my understanding is giving 20,000 to this, but I'm not quite sure why some of our partners weren't contributing to this. So whilst the contribution would have made sense to me, I just was a little bit at a loss to know why we were the one left standing in terms of funding this. So I'd seek your support for supporting all these recommendations to take them out on the basis that that is made explicit in the consultation material.
Colleagues, this is 120,000 of partners who have all advocated it. We voted for this, and now we're going to vote against it. To me, that is relitigating. So I don't agree with the councillor's summation of what has happened. There's literally thousands of people that use these facilities or are involved with these organisations. It's putting $1 to something to encourage others to be involved. Certainly that for the economic development side, that happens. And with the new leadership at Massey University, I just can't think of a better way to disincentivise them to be involved with us by saying, oh no, we don't want to be involved in your prime project right on our doorstep, connecting to our river, connecting with our iwi. So please vote these down. This 100. If it was millions or even hundreds of thousands, we might have a look at it, but it isn't. It's 120,000. In fact, I'm sorry, but it's quite mean. I'm sorry. I have to say that. So I won't be supporting it. I ask you to vote it down significantly, please. Councillor Wood.
I think using the word mean
Yes, I did.
is disrespectful, and I'd ask that you consider that under our standing orders.
No, I think it is quite mean. Sorry, Councillor. I think it is very mean because they've all been voted for.
No, it hasn't.
It has. They all were significantly voted for in the last annual plan.
Could I refer you to the officer's report, who said that these are matters for consideration during the annual budget? I'm happy to speak to it, but you're not correct, Mr Mayor.
I'm sorry, I disagree with you. Totally disagree with you. So, Councillor, you can't just make comments off the cuff. I'm chairing the meeting. You can't do that, I'm sorry. If you want to be in this chamber, you have to abide. I'm sorry. Councillor Wood.
All right, councillors. I'd start by saying there are parts of what Councillor Naylor said that I do actually agree with. So as the person who proposed the support for the PMBHS hockey turf, I sat in this chamber 4 months ago and said I'm supporting it for this annual budget and referring it to the next one, and I might well support it or I might well not, depending on the financial position we're in. So I agree with the principle that things that are referred to budgets shouldn't just be assumed to be included. And I'd ask other councillors, put yourselves in the shoes of somebody who does or doesn't support any of these things, is that I think effectively it creates an extra 2 votes need to change something. So rather than needing 9 to get it in, you'd need 9 to get it out. And I don't think that's fair if it's something you support or if it's something you don't support. So in principle, my view is these should all be out. Now, in saying that, I'm going to ask for all 4 of them to be separated for the vote. I think that was the plan, but I don't know if it is or not. Because there are some of these that I will support. I do take a little bit of an issue with the partnership comments regarding Massey University. They have significantly over the last 3 years, frankly, pulled out of their partnerships with us, and we've had to meet the shortfall. I can think of Artists in Residence, I can think of Shakespeare, I can think of other examples. So being a good partner goes both ways, and I didn't support putting that money in last budget, so it's not because I'm not wanting to work with Massey, it's not any of those reasons. I don't personally see the value in that specific program. I'm at a bit of a loss as to what the Manawatu Rugby and Cyclones was when I'm trying to recall my mind, so if some council wants to ask a question about that afterwards, I'd appreciate it, because I can't quite remember. The hockey turf, I stand by as a good investment. I think we get far better value for money in other organisations operating, maintaining and building facilities than us operating, maintaining and building facilities. I just think we get a better return out of it. The numbers stack up. It's getting a good amount of external funding. Having council partnership in there at this level, I think, works. And as regard to the final one, moving around, but the $20,000, didn't support it last time, I won't support it this time.
Councillor Sabellin.
Thank you. I was also going to ask for these to be separated out. I know I have voted against many of these items in the past for different reasons, but they were successful. And to my mind, it was very clever of the councillors to suggest that we put up a total amount and then do it in thirds and put the first amount in and then refer it to the annual budget, because I think that signals intent. And then we're not necessarily arguing the merit of the proposal or the project. Then we're arguing about the principle of partnership. And I think the principle of partnership is really important, and I feel like I wouldn't want to be seen on backtracking on commitments we've made, even if I did not vote for them. Finally, as to the car park, because I think that is a bit separate, I do feel that we were all a bit frustrated at being the last one standing and having to pick up the bill for that, but that is the reality of what's happened. And who will maintain the toilet if we do not maintain it? Who will be picking up the rubbish in that area if we don't do it? We are the last one standing. If it doesn't get done, it will be actually disgusting. We got to do it. So separate them out. I'll probably oppose most of them.
Sorry, the Deputy Mayor.
Kia ora, Your Worship, just for noting, and my apologies for not raising it earlier, with regards to program 2563, due to being an employee of Palmerston North Boys High School, I will withdraw from any voting like I did last time. Thank you.
Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Looking across all 4 of these, you're going to have trouble telling the fors and against, because we're mixed, some of them for and some of them against. But my views on this around the Massey side with the botanical gardens, I agree it has been disappointing to see Massey bring itself into such financial strife that it has had to withdraw some valuable and precious partnership funding with the city. But I think it would be most unwise, just as they're starting to get on their feet, to start to do a tit-for-tat battle with them where we go, well, you took a bit, so we're going to chop you off at the knees. This is a significant strategic potential for the wider community. Yes, hosted at Massey, but unlocks a whole lot of potential for additional community recreation in the future that would largely not be funded from this table. So I would encourage us to stay the course and see the 50,000 held there, and thus vote against that recommendation. And likewise, the car park, there's a multi-million-dollar new recreational asset there that some of my colleagues were very proud of, the fact that it had been brought to our doorstep in the hundreds of millions of dollars. The least we could do is put in $20,000 to make sure that the gateway to that doesn't turn into a trash pile.
Okay, right, a reply, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just firstly, addressing some of those points. Last year, when this was discussed, I clearly remember many of you who were in support of this saying, this commitment is simply for 1 year, following that it will be reconsidered next year. And on that basis, that was the basis that that decision was made. So I pushed back on anyone suggesting this is relitigation. This is the time then to reconsider whether we support that for a further year. I also do want to address the suggestion that this is mean. It's easy to spend someone else's money. I could suggest that it's mean to spend someone else's money when they're saying they can't afford it. And I just really like to leave that, because I don't think it's appropriate for comments to be made in that regard in this chamber, and I push back to the fact that it has been ruled that that's allowed, so that is my response to those comments. So I think this is the time to consider these items. I would urge you to think about who is funding this small amount of money, supposedly. I don't think it's small amounts of money. When those who are paying for it, it's huge amounts of money. So I would like you to consider that when you decide whether or not to support giving this money away, of our ratepayers' money, to other people.
Okay, councillors, we're going to vote on, which is around I'll speak while we're doing that. So we're just getting it ready. So this is around F, is around not including the Massey Botanical Gardens project of 50,000. And that has failed. 6 votes for and 8 against. All right. We move through to our next one, which is F. That was F, so if we could just get the screen up, please. So G1, we're going to separate the two economic ones out. So this next one, G1, is around not providing support for Manawatu Rugby of 25,000. So if we could vote on that one, please. And that has failed. 4 votes for and 11 against. We come through to the next G2, and this is around not providing civic support for a hockey turf of 33. That has failed. 5 votes for and 9 against. And then our final one is biodiversity in the Manawatu River and the Gateway car park not providing the budget of 20,000. If we could vote on that. and that has failed. 5 votes for and 9 against. Okay, do we need to do the substantive? Okay, so 1A, at council instruct the chief executive to prepare a draft of the consultation document supporting information for the annual budget 26-27 for consideration by council at its meeting on the 11th of February 2026, and that it contains operating programs as outlined in attachment 4, which continue to include those highlighted in clause 9.2. I'm happy to move that. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Wood. Councillor Naylor.
There was one additional recommendation, that's on our sheet that we haven't covered.
So that's under operating budgets. We're about to do that after this. This is operating programs. So, just getting back to where we were, we will vote on 1A. This is programs only. Budgets is to come. And this has passed 12 votes for and 2 against. Just check until you push the button. Okay. All right. We've got one more. I'm wary of time, people. So this is around operating budgets. Okay, 1F is really around following considerations in clause 9.3 in any other matters arise. So that is around, put up item 9.3, just canoe polo. Am I right there? Yes, yeah. Okay, we're moving on. Okay, operating budgets now. And this is our final one, I believe. And this is at the international. Can we just get it all on? Oh, no, it is on one page. Operating budgets, that international relations expense be reduced by 10%, 52,000, and that there is a corresponding reduction of activity. So, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Yep, I'll take that as read. It's pretty self-explanatory, looking to reduce some expenditure in that area.
Councillor Bowen.
Just a question, if I could, Mr. Mayor, and apologies if I've missed this, but my understanding of that international relations budget is mostly staff costs. So how would that work if this was passed?
I'll get Dave. Could I ask David Murphy to respond? I'm not sure the percentage and the numbers are quite correct.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just a couple of comments on this one. The first one, just to clarify, the budget actually covers international relations and international education portfolio. So you'll recall the international education portfolio came back to council when we reduced, it was previously with CEDA. So when we reduced CEDA's funding by $200,000, part of that conversation was that the international education function comes back. So that's coordinating the activities of the various institutions that rely heavily on international education. Yeah, the bulk of the budget is staff, so 52,000 would be just over 50% of the controllable budget. So by the time you take out staff and overheads, yeah, the controllable budget's about $100,000. So $50,000 would be, as I said, just over 50% of that budget. Just one other thing is we are As you know, there's two roles in international relations and education. We had, Gabrielle was in the chamber earlier, international relations manager. There's an international relations and education advisor role. We've recently recruited to that, moved on. We've only appointed that role on a 6-month fixed-term contract for 30 hours, just to, given some of the other remuneration pressures in the organisation. So there are already some considered decisions being made about the resourcing in this space relative to the overall challenges that the organisation is facing.
Thank you, David.
Look, colleagues, I'm not going to support this. I think this is, I'm sorry, but I think this is about the 6th or 7th time this has been up on the chopping block. And I appreciate people can have views on it, but the facts are, I think it's around 30 to 40,000 an international student. Not that it's meant to have values on things, but that if you do the numbers, this is a market or sector that's worth in excess of $50 million to this city. It's a bit of false economy, and if it was truly 10%, we'd probably be talking about $10,000. So 52,000 will cut the heart out of some of the activity that goes on. And look, if everybody, why is international relations been picked on? Why isn't all the other budgets been picked on? So again, I do come back to not only is it a whipping or a target, but it is also a little bit of false economy. So please don't support this. Councillor Naylor.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with the Mayor. This has been looked at a number of times, and certainly there's been a mix of support for it. I think one time it was pretty much a split vote that lost through a lack of majority. So it's not been really solid support. And I think one of the reasons it is sometimes on the chopping block is that some of us really see limited outcomes for our ratepayers through this investment. I'd like to refer you, colleagues, to page 214 of our agenda if you do want to see the breakdown. The expenses outlined there are 527,000, and there is a breakdown of some of that being remuneration and some of that being other costs. But certainly the reason I support this is that we have, there's a lot of activity in the international engagement space that actually falls outside of this budget, because we have a paper such as what we had this morning where we make one decision about an elected member going on a trip, but then officers then make another decision about what staff might go on that trip. And there's a flow-on effect of other costs that really we don't have visibility over, but that do support this activity as well. So this is just perhaps a signal that if this is supported, my view would be to give an indication actually that we'd like to reduce the activity rather than increasing the activity. And this budget is one that has certainly increased significantly over the time that I've sat around this table, and I've observed to try and see the benefit, and I really have not seen significant benefit for ratepayers. So I'll be supporting this on that basis.
All right, we'll put this to the vote. That is 5 votes for and 11 against. This is... Okay, we now got the substantive 1E, that Council instruct the Chief Executive to prepare a draft of the consultation document and supporting information for the annual budget 2026-27 for consideration by Council at its meeting on the 11th of February 26, and that it contains the operating budgets as outlined in attachments 1 to 3. I'm happy to move those, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. We will vote. And that is passed. 13 votes for and 2 against. And now we've got to do the assumptions. 1D, that council instruct the chief executive to prepare a draft of the consultation document and supporting information for the annual budget 26-27 for consideration by council at its meeting of the 11th of February 2026. And it contains D, significant budget assumptions as outlined in section 5. Is there anything else to that, please? Underneath? No, okay, that's it. Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry, because there's so much scrolling going on. So I'm happy to move that, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, and I'll ask you to vote, please. That has passed 15 votes for and none against. Colleagues, what I'm going to do is adjourn the meeting till next week at 9 a.m. and there'll be an option of, because I know some of you won't be physically here, that we come in online, but there'll either be myself or the Deputy Mayor here chairing, and those that are in the city, please, if you could come into the chamber. It won't be a long meeting because we'll clean up our part 2, and I understand there's a late paper as well in part 1. So I have to pass a motion to adjourn. Okay, so the day will be the 17th of December, Wednesday the 17th of December at 9 a.m. All right? Could I have a karakia to close our meeting?
Tēnā koe, Your Worship, o te rā, tēnā tātou. Thank you to elected members. Thank you very much to officers and other people who are here today. Kia pai tō tātou hokinga ki te kāinga. May we all return safely home or to where we need to be. Noho pai mai, noho ora mai, I roto I ngā manaakitanga katoa. Be safe, be well, and blessings to you all. Tēnā koutou. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the staff and those in the gallery. Appreciate your presence. And we will see you either in the chamber or online